Hi, welcome. I'm Neil Bayton. I'm Head of UK Partnerships in the UK. Today's webinar is going to be about our product enhancements over the last 6 months or so. Really interesting things that we've been working on. And with me to help me along with those new products is Global Head of Training, Ash Rama.
Thanks, Neil. So nice to speak to you all. So looking forward to taking you through a few of our new product updates. So just our agenda for this webinar is as follows. So there's four things I'm going to be taking you through with Neil. The first one being our new Trustbox Optimizer tool. So this has been an exciting addition to our Trustbox library, and I'll take you through exactly what that does and how to use it. The second one is rich snippets. So many of you will be familiar with what, sorry, we're just going back to, here we go. Many of you will be familiar with what rich snippets do and what they are, but we've had a couple of updates on the service review side, so that I'll take you through that. Thirdly, our enhanced review collection methods, and then we've got a very quick preview of a coming soon feature called Insights that I'll show you a couple of screenshots of. So just starting off with our Trustbox Optimizer tool. So this is essentially a split test tool to optimize and improve Trustbox ROI. And many of you on this call will be familiar with what a Trustbox is, but for those who are not, a Trustbox is basically an integration of Trustpilot reviews and TrustScore onto a business's website. And our Trustboxes come with some very easy copy and paste technology to integrate these as businesses want to integrate them across their consumers' buying journeys. So with the Trustbox Optimizer tool, we've been there's always been questions around which Trustbox is going to be the best to use, and also where should I put the Trustbox on my website, where's going to be the most effective place. So the Trustbox Optimizer tool was built to tackle both of those questions. So the purpose is exactly what you can see on screen here, which is a tool to enable businesses to see and maximize the return from the Trustboxes. We can now help you get the right Trustbox in the right place to ensure you're having the best impact on conversions on site. So why use the Optimizer at all? There's three main reasons that come into this. And the first one is establishing which Trustbox is the most effective to use. And that's normally the key question that gets asked. And then off the back of that, once you've chosen the right Trustbox, is going to be to establish the most effective location for it. And this is a question that always gets asked, as for many businesses, the consumer buying journey can have multiple steps. So which steps should the consumer come across review content to have the best impact on them? And then thirdly, most importantly, is proving it with data to answer those top 2 points. So how the new Trustbox Optimizer works is as follows. So this graphic that you can see on screen is just a visual representation of exactly what happens. So it's basically a split test tool in that, as a business or as an agency, you'll decide on the test variations that you want the business to take on. So a percentage of visitors to the website will see one variation of the website with or without the Trustbox, and then the other percentage of visitors will see the other variation, whether it's with or without the Trustbox. So that's essentially the methodology behind it. And the first question to answer here for most businesses when using the optimizer is where to actually test to the Trustbox on the consumer buying journey. And it's very simple by answering these two questions. So firstly, where are your consumers dropping off the most? So when you look at the businesses, the consumer buying journey, there's typically one or two places where consumers are dropping off the most. And it's of those places you've got to decide on where do you believe there is a potential to see an uplift in conversions. And there's many scenarios that this can play into, but the example we have on screen here is you may have, I mean, this is quite a typical e-commerce buying journey that consumers would go through to a certain extent. And typically the add to basket through to checkout is where the biggest basket abandonment is seen. And so the argument here would be, let's try and put a Trustbox around the basket and delivery stage of the buying journey to encourage more consumers to actually get to checkout and complete their buying process. So that decision will be made first on where to test it, and then the second decision to make is what to actually test. So if the business is an existing Trustpilot user, they may already have a trust box in place on their website. And in that case, option one that you can see on screen here would be the best option to go for, which would be testing their existing trust box against potentially a different trust box. And within option one, the other possibility would be to test Trustbox 1 with particular review content versus Trustbox 2, which you may decide to have slightly different review content in to see if the actual content of reviews has an impact on the conversions. Option 2 here would be mostly for newer businesses working with Trustpilot, and that would be, in fact, to test the Trustbox versus no Trustbox. So quite a typical situation here would be that their consumer buying journey for 50% of their traffic would remain as it is, but the other 50% of their site traffic would actually see the website with a trust box, so they could test one against the other to determine the best place to actually get review content in there. So overall, just to summarize what we've gone through here, the value of the optimizer overall comes in two main perspectives. So if we look at it from the business's perspective, there's three main value points here. Maximizing ROI on the actual trust box. So if you are going to have review content within your consumer buying journey, you want to see that it is actually providing some kind of return, and you want to get proof of it. Ultimately, that results in businesses generally being more confident in actually using Trustbox integrations on their site. And on the consumer side of things, obviously it's important that consumers come across review content when it actually matters to them. So it's all well and good, deciding to put a trust box on a homepage, maybe on a category page somewhere. But is that the point in the buying journey where the consumer is actually going to care about review content? And that's where the optimizer can really bring some value for the consumer. So a couple of case studies to take you through here. The first one is with a company called Revel, and this is what they were trying to test and prove here. So three main things they were looking to actually prove. So firstly, the conversion rate of customer submit form can be improved. So that was their initial thinking. They've got a submit form on their homepage, and their belief was that there is actually potential of an uplift here. Based on the visitors they were getting, there was definitely scope to improve how many of them were filling in the submit form. So the thinking was, if we were to integrate a trust box near the submit form, would that help in encouraging more site visitors to complete it? And the test would be to test whether or not having a trust box near the submit form would result in an uplift of conversions from it. And the results came through, and they were quite interesting to see. So how the test was set up was a very straightforward 50-50 split. 50% of the site traffic would see the original homepage with no trust box, and the other 50% of traffic would see the homepage with the trust box, and that would be the only difference. And after running the test, the results were that the variation with the trust box saw a 16% uplift in conversions. So a very, very clear message there from the Trustbox Optimizer tool that having a trust box in place increased the conversion rate of that submit form on the homepage for Revel. The second case study was for a slightly different business, and this is where the business actually had quite a complicated and long consumer flow. So there were multiple steps to actually getting to the checkout for this business. So the thinking from the business was, if we've got a consumer that's got all the way through to the payment page, then if we had reviews in place at that point where they're entering payment details, we believe that would help encourage more consumers to actually confirm the order and complete. So what you can see on screen here is variation A versus variation B. You can see all the same information exists. The addition was the trust box next to the payment information pane. So the results from this one were quite interesting in that there was no noticeable difference between the two variations. So having a trust box in place at that point on the buying journey neither helped or hurt the consumers in terms of the conversion rates. So it's deemed as an inconclusive test. However, what was conclusive about the test is that it was clear that consumers at this point had already decided whether they were going to complete their transaction or not. So the follow-up point to this test was that the review content and the trust box should actually be within the consumer buying journey a few steps earlier. And at this point in the buying journey, it was almost too late to influence them. So the next steps were to actually do another test with review content earlier in the consumer's buying journey. So the installation of this new feature is actually very easy. So if you're used to using Trustpilot and installing our trust boxes as they are, you'll know how easy it is to generate the code and copy and paste it into the HTML of the site to be able to have review content feeding through. We've followed the same sort of thinking with the Trustbox Optimizer tool here. So we provide the copy and paste code, and it's very similar to the Trustbox integrations you may be used to. The code is also provided to allow the tracking of order information, as you can see at the bottom there. So you're also able to report through your Trustpilot dashboard on the order total and the basket size to get a very accurate ROI figure from the two variations you're testing against each other. So overall, very easy to install.
It's very lopsided, this. I've not spoke much. I just thought this is a really great tool, the optimizer, the split testing for agencies. So if you're managing your clients' customer experience or their CRO strategy, it's a fantastic tool for you to go and analyze what's working, what's not working, offer insight based upon real stats and data. So I just thought it was a really good tool for an agency for your existing clients. So you are, if you've got clients that are already on Trustpilot, you might want to re-engage with them and sort of maybe analyze what they're doing right or maybe what they can do better.
Thanks, Neil. So moving on to the second point in the agenda now, which is rich snippets. So as many of you will be aware on the rich snippets side of things, that we obviously offer the ability to achieve rich snippets in Google results pages by collecting product reviews with Trustpilot. And we have our SEO trust boxes, which have the rich snippet schema markup already built in. So very easy to use and integrate. In addition to the rich snippet offering from Trustpilot is actually within our service reviews. So you can see here on the right-hand side that for a brand-related search, the company here being naturalbabyshower.co.uk, for a brand-related search, the business's website can now benefit from an aggregate star rating rich snippet result as well as the product side of things you can see on the left. So a great way to be showcasing your reputation within organic listings for service reviews. So the integration, the on-site integration in this case for Natural Baby Shower, they have a customer service page which includes one of the Trustpilot integrations, which is our grid integration. Within that integration is the coding necessary to show the rich snippets for service reviews in the organic listings in Google. So it's all built in, all very easy to install for businesses to use in that way.
I think this is rich snippets can be part of an online search strategy. So it can add value to an SEO project or a paid search project you're doing for your customers. So something you're already doing. I just see this as a value add, as an additional to what you're doing. And as Ashley's going to explain now, how easy it is means it's going to be something that you're going to want to implement.
Thanks, Phil. Yeah, absolutely right. When it comes to the SEO side of things, it adds some good value. And these are the four main reasons we see businesses wanting to implement rich snippets. So firstly, it allows consumers to see the business's reputation within the results page. So typically, if you think about where reviews appear on a consumer's buying journey, typically you're going to have to be on a business's website to read reviews and see their rating, or be on maybe a Trustpilot profile page. But this allows a business to showcase their reputation very early on in the consumer buying journey, which really helps on things like especially achieving that competitive edge in the organic results, and certainly helping increase click-through rate to that page. So it's very easy to implement. And when I say very easy to implement, you can see on the right-hand side here, it's a tick box that you need to simply tick when you configure your trust box, and it's as simple as that. And obviously, with everything we do, it's fully compliant with Google guidelines.
Just on that, if you've got clients that are already using one of our trust boxes, you will need to generate more code. So you can be exactly the same trust box as before, and and it can have the same content. However, you will need to generate the actual code again and tick that box to get the actual markup for rich snippets. What we also recommend then is that you actually go into your Google Search Console and have Google re-spider or what's the word? Recrawl. Yeah, recrawl the site, just so it knows that you've updated information on rich snippets about that page, and then they can start showing. We also recommend, as a sort of like a best practice, that the review content on that particular page is above the fold. We just feel that it just quickens up and it just makes the markup of rich snippets a bit quicker.
Yeah, also that's a great point that Neil makes there. And above the fold is actually part of Google's guidelines as well. So if a consumer does come across rich snippets on organic results, Google really wants that consumer to be able to see that review content as quickly as possible. So therefore, having it as visible as possible after the click is going to be fully compliant. So moving on to the third point in our agenda, which was AFS2. So we have an automatic feedback service, as some of you will obviously be using for your clients and maybe be aware of. And we've had some great updates come through for this automatic feedback service. So as we now call it, AFS 2.0. So just to take you through a couple of those improvements there. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what automatic feedback service is, before these updates, AFS was simply a way to collect reviews automatically from your customers as and when they come in. So you would have an email, taking a typical e-commerce example, you may have your invoice email that goes to the consumer. Once that goes out, that will trigger AFS, which will then have a preset delay on when the review invitation goes out to them. And that was the essence of what AFS did, which just meant it was a hands-free way of collecting. So AFS 2.0 comes with some great additions now. So firstly, the ability to pre-tag. So if you're familiar with what tagging is, pre-tagging just makes it a lot easier to do, and again, takes the manual input away from it. So you'd be able to, for example, if you're collecting reviews from multiple locations, you'd be able to have the tag for your location come through on the review without you having to put it in manually. As long as that location information is available within the trigger email, such as the invoice, or such as a dispatch email, then you can pre-tag pretty much anything from there, as long as it's consistent across all invoices that go out. And that may be for it. So an example that we've seen quite regularly within locations is maybe to notice that a particular location in the UK, so just as an example, take Birmingham and London, you may have a branch in Birmingham that you are tracking the trust score of, compare it to London, and you may find that the Birmingham branch is actually performing slightly better in terms of the review content that comes back and the overall star rating, and it just makes it very easy to filter and segment those reviews as they come in. And the second update we've had is the ability to actually collect product reviews through AFS. So this is actually coded into the trigger email. For example, the invoice again. If the invoice contains the information about the product, such as the product URL, and also contains the product URL image and where it's located, etc., then you'd be able to trigger a product review invitation. And I'll show you a quick snippet of that code shortly. And the other update, which is a small update but still very useful, especially for conversion rates of invitations, is you're able to just choose the hour of day you'd like the invitations to go out on, which is obviously useful for controlling when your customers receive their review invitation. And this is all done using snippet code, which sits behind that trigger email. So here's an example snippet code here. So everything in orange is obviously customizable. And so to give you an example here, you can see tags. So you'd be able to select what the tags are and predetermine them within the snippet code that you put behind the trigger email, and that will automatically pick that up every time a review invitation goes out and add that tag to your review when it comes back into you from the customer. And the lower bit there and the green arrow on the left, this is where you'd do your coding to pick up on the product information to then trigger the product information, the product invitation to also go out to that customer. So all very easy to do and set up. And once it is set up behind that trigger email, there's nothing else to really do. It does look after itself, and you can manage the settings in your Trustpilot dashboard in terms of timescales, etc. And here's a quick screenshot of where to select your time of day for invitations as you send out. As you send them out, it's a very simple drop down where you select the time you'd like them to go out, and that just appears in your AFS settings in the dashboard. So the final thing for me to run through today is just a quick preview of a new feature that we're currently working on. So it's currently in the beta stage, but I'd like to give you a preview of it, as it is a very exciting update to what we offer at Trustpilot. So it's called Insights, and it's actually overall the ability to automatically add reviews to a topic based on its content. So there's 5 predetermined topics that you can see in this screenshot here. We've got customer service, delivery, price, product, and website. So the machine learning software behind this would basically read the review content as it comes in and add it to the appropriate topic based on the review content automatically. So what that gives you in one very simple dashboard from a user point of view as a business or as an agency is an average star rating for that topic, the customer satisfaction score, which I'm going to show you in a second, and overall the number of reviews that have come in for that topic. So as you can imagine, you might be able to see that customer or delivery seems to be a reason where most of our 1 and 2 star reviews are coming from. It means that particular attention can be paid to that. And it seems like the overall rating for website is 5 stars, although that's only from 1 review. So you know, the more data there is in there, the more accurate it will obviously become. But a very good way to get insights into review content with no manual input. So another screenshot from the Insights offering is our customer satisfaction score, which when comparison to the NPS score is obviously quite a similar reading. So what you see here is just a breakdown of the customer satisfaction score based on the review content that has come in and how your average star rating performance has changed over time in comparison to that customer satisfaction score. So it showcases changes in performance by date range, and it's just a nice simple dashboard in one place within your analytics. And this is also this final screenshot I'd like to show you is how pre-tagging can really play a huge part in insights and what you see from them. So if you have pre-tagging set up within your AFS 2.0, what you'd be able to see within this part of Insights is how tags are performing. And this is exactly where you would go to see how various locations are performing against each other. Or you may be able to look, come into this view to also see how maybe so particular locations or maybe particular sales consultants are operating compared to each other, or it may be a particular topic that's not mentioned within the default insight screen. So this is very customizable depending on the pre-tagging you set up within AFS, but it means that the depth of analytics you can go into goes much further than just sort of the typical review content that you're used to now. So a very exciting addition to our feature suite. So that concludes the information within the webinar. Anything that you'd like to add, Neil? I mean, we've had some questions come through.
Very thorough there, Ash. Thank you. You've done a fantastic job in explaining the new features coming. And I'm really excited about the topics and the insight bit. I think it's going to be really good.
Definitely.
Is there just off the top of it, is there like a minimum amount of reviews you need to see to really benefit from the insights?
There's no minimum as such to get some kind of insight out of it, but obviously the more reviews you have, the more accurate that insight's going to get. Yeah. So as you hit sort of 50, 60, 70 reviews per topic, that's when you can really start making some informed judgment calls.
Cool. Well, we've got some questions coming in. David Coventry, right, okay. Can you mark up every page for rich snippets?
Great question. So if we're talking product review rich snippets, then the answer is yes. You can mark up all of your pages to have product review rich snippets. On the service review side, however, you are limited to 5 pages, and that's part of Google's guidelines, which are rich snippet spamming. So rich snippets for service reviews revolves around the same information on each page it's on. Therefore, you're limited to 5 pages across your website for them.
Cool. Another question from Carol. With the optimizer,
Yeah.
does the traffic have to be 50-50 split with the traffic?
Good question. Yeah, this has come up a few times actually when we tested the tools. So with the optimizer, you don't have to do a 50-50 split. However, we do recommend a 50-50 split. The reason being, the only change on the site when you're doing a test of variation A versus variation B, the only difference between the two variations should be the addition of a trust box, which makes it a very low risk split for 50% of your traffic to see. It also means you can make a judgment call more quickly than doing a 70-30 split or 80-20, for example. So yeah, we'd recommend 50-50, but you don't have to go with that.
Okay, last question. Chris, how long before I can expect rich snippets on my organic listings?
Great question. So with rich snippets, that really is down to Google. I mean, they have guidelines on sort of a few weeks to turn it around, but typically, once you've got Google to recrawl your website, and once they've picked up on the fact that you have rich snippets and the schema markup done, then you're looking at a couple of weeks for them to become visible.
Final question from Karen. Do you need a minimum number of reviews to benefit from rich snippets in organic search results?
So on the service review side, you don't need a minimum number as such, no. You just have to have some review content and have installed one of our trust boxes with the SEO benefits box ticked, so that's enabled, and you'll be able to see them. And on the product review side, the same applies. No minimums needed to generate rich snippets for product reviews either.
Just to have some review content.
There just needs to be some review content and a score and rating on the product that Google can pick up on and display.
Excellent. That's it. That's the final question. If you do think of any other questions, feel free to get in contact. My email address is nba@trustpilot.com. And yours, Ash?
Yeah, and feel free to get in touch with me as well. And my email address is ara@trustpilot.com.
Fantastic. Appreciate your time, and thank you very much.